Well, hello there. Welcome to our little shop. Well, it's Monday. It's a very cold, rainy, dreary day here. And we have a week of fretwork to do. Any of you that follow this channel realize that I do guitars, amplifiers, speakers, and basses. Do a lot of work. But this week is going to be dedicated to fretwork. So here we have our first patient that we've already jumped into. So sorry, but I decided about 3 frets into this that I needed to do a fretwork frenzy video. So anyway, we're doing a partial refret on the Stratocaster. So you see I already have 3 frets in. They're bent and the tang has been trimmed so we don't have to file so much off at the edge of the fingerboard. So we're going to get the rest of these frets in and we'll carry on, but like I say, I just want you to see what's going to be happening here. So what I'm doing is actually tapping these frets in, then I'm clamping them. But I thought here what I'd do is show you, you can see how this actually fits the slot exactly widthwise. So we don't have a whole lot of hang overhang. Anytime you're dealing with these lacquered fingerboards, doing a partial refret, it can be a bit of a challenge, so you got to work around that. So by trimming this fret end off like this to where it fits perfectly in the fret slot, it keeps you from having to file so much off the end out here and getting in the lacquer so much. So just a little pre-planning there. Well, we have all the frets in. I say is a partial refret here of 7 frets. We've got, well, just checked the watch, an hour and 15 minutes in this so far. You gotta be very careful getting these frets out. So it takes a bit of time to get the frets out, get the slots cleaned, get the fingerboard cleaned up, and get ready to go. Then you have to, you know, bend your frets, trim the frets, put the frets in, all that. So we're just getting started. So we're going to set this one aside, let it dry for a while, and continue with patient number 2. Patient number 2 is a Telecaster. Gonna get pretty much the same treatment. This is rosewood boards, so this is going to be easier. But he is going to need 8 frets. So you get 8 frets and a fret dress to blend everything all together. Like I said earlier, you have a few options here with the rosewood boards that makes them a little bit easier to deal with. You can basically heat your frets and take them out like normal, which you cannot do with the maple fingerboards. The reason I run the fret saw through there is I like to do it while it's still warm. That way if there's any glue in there, you can actually clean a lot of the glue out with the fret saw first. It's a lot easier to do while everything is wet, warm and all that, while it's hot. This is a lot easier than taking them out of the maple fingerboard. Something else, People have asked a lot of times why I use solder on the frets when I'm heating them up. Well, my usual answer to that is Repair 101. That is probably one of the oldest tricks in the book in guitar work. It softens any glue that may be in there and lets it come out easier. Actually expands the fret a little bit very quickly, and as it cools slightly, it compresses back down. That comes out of the slot a little easier. Hopefully without any chipping. You see, this is going pretty well so far, so hopefully I don't jinx myself here on the last 4 frets. There, frets are all out. Nary a chip. So anyway, something else has been commented on. People wonder, why I go so much trouble to do things this way. I do not believe in what they refer to as a rip and stick fret jobs. I try to do as good or better job than the factory did to start with, and I have a lot of things that I do to accomplish that. So a lot of times I spend actually more time doing a refret than the factory probably spent building the guitar. And there's a reason for that. I have to fix the problems that they left. So anyway, I'm going to get on with this. I'm going to sand this fingerboard a little bit, get it cleaned up, get it ready. Chamfer the top of the slots, get my fret wire cut, get it in. So like I say, number 2 on the way here. I'll put one fret in, clamp it, mark the next one, trim the tang off it, get it ready, move on up the line. There you go. This is where it's going to go. One fret in, 7 more to go. And we unclamp the first one. Wipe up our glue. And carry on. Okay, there we go. Another 8 frets. We're going to set this one aside to dry as well. Clean up my mess here. That's from my fret bender. Anyways. Okay, so I'm going to clean up my mess here, and let's see, what time is it? It's 11:46. It's almost lunchtime. I've got another 50 minutes in this guitar. So we're going to move it over here to dry with the other one and eat some lunch. Well, here we are back with this. It's been a couple hours, and the glue has dried really well here on the frets, so we're ready to get back with this. I took a little break in between to make a nut and saddle for an acoustic and get it set up. So we're back on this. So it's a few hours later. So I'm going to file the fret ends. I've already trimmed them. So I'm going to go ahead and file them and get them beveled at the same angle the original ones are, so that it looks like nothing was ever done here. And depending on the way they look, I may seal the ends of them with a drop of super glue, then file that down and get that ready. I will also be quickly leveling the tops of them and spot leveling. I've checked them as I put them in. They're actually very level. There's only a few little minor places that need to be touched up before we get ready to put this on the neck jig and finish up the fret dress on it, because it is going to be getting a full fret dress after the new frets are put in. We've got to blend the new ones into the old ones. The old ones had a little bit of wear, but not enough to replace them, so we've got to get that all taken care of. So, where's my file? Alright. Fret ends are all trimmed. Frets are rough leveled. Fingerboard's cleaned up. We're ready to mummify this thing and get it on the neck jig. So let's get it taped up. And then tomorrow, first thing when I come in, we're going to start doing frets. We're all jigged up here, and I've been doing the fret leveling, the initial fret dressing. Getting everything's nice and level. I'm going to point out a few things here to you. See back here all these filings and sanding marks? Sanding debris? That's from the kick up and back into the neck. There's another little spot here that was a problem. But everything else leveled and evened up really smoothly. So it's going getting these shaped. I got about 2 hours worth of filing and sanding here to do. Something else here that's worth mentioning. I mentioned that you got to be careful with these maple fingerboards. I go through a lot of trouble to make sure we don't have any extra problems, and sometimes that doesn't work either. This one's in pretty good shape, so I'm not expecting a whole lot of trouble with it. But something I always do, if you look here, there's some very high quality drafting tape underneath my regular binding tape that I use for masking off the frets to do the fret work. This will keep from pulling lacquer. You still got to be careful of taking it off, but it does not have the adhesion of the binding tape. So something else that's acid free, so the heat of sanding here and so on does not cause the active ingredients of the adhesive to actually eat into the lacquer that's happened sometimes. So just a tip for you there. And we have our Stratocaster finished. The partial refret, fret dress, setup including nut height, bridge height, intonation, pickup height, clean these controls, clean these output jack. He's ready to go. 5 hours. Now, back to the Tele. Well, we have our frets in the Tele, of course. We now have the ends of them trimmed and rough leveled. So let's get on the neck jig. Get her taped up and get on that jig. Well, I've been just working away here. As usual, I'll stop to take a break, and I've got 8 frets left to do. So, moving on. Now, there we go. Tele's finished. About 5 hours altogether here. Luckily, the fretwork came out so well that I didn't even have to touch the nut. A lot of times you have to retweak it height-wise when you do fretwork, but I'd set this guitar up years ago for him. Actually, I think he said that I'd put frets in before. Anyway, several years ago, so I don't remember. But we didn't have to touch the nut. However, I did have to readjust his bridge saddles and intonation here because someone had been working with it trying to get rid of the buzzes. So some of the strings were really high, some of them were really low. Also cleaned his electronics and his output jack. The pots were dirty. I don't think he ever uses a tone control because it was pretty nasty. But anyway, there we have another one done. So we're going to get this in the case and move on. I still have more fretwork to do. So next on our hit list is an oddity for in here. We have a Northfield mandolin that needs 8 frets. So anyway, the deal is I typically do not work on mandolins, but if I have a regular customer, I actually met this guy as a guitar customer, he's a mandolin player as well. If someone has a decent mandolin that needs some fretwork done or a nut or something, I'll do it, but I try to avoid the lower stuff. Like I say, basically if they're just a good customer, I'll do it. I try to avoid a lot of the lower line stuff. I learned a long time ago that you cannot work on really cheap instruments. A woman brought a really inexpensive mandolin in here one time. The neck had been dowel rotted on at the factory, and when the neck came loose and pulled plywood body sides off, she wouldn't know why I wouldn't fix it. Fact of the matter is, if it wasn't built right to start with, I can't fix it, or it's not worth the time and trouble, especially for someone that doesn't understand. So anyway, so I'm moving on here to this. We're going to put 8 frets in this, and we're going to get it taken care of. Oh, by the way, you notice I've switched to a much lower neck rest here. It doesn't get as much use as the old worn out one here. You know, there's certain things I use this one for, but a lot of times the other one's just more handy. But in this case, this is going to work out better for me. It's hard to believe that this one used to be the same condition as that one. They're the same age. I made them at the same time, about 30 years ago. So anyway, moving on. While I'm heating up my iron here and getting ready, I thought I'd give you a look at how bad these frets actually are. It's hard to really see it through the camera, but he's got 8 pretty nasty ones here. We can get the rest of it with the fret dress when we blend the new ones into the old ones. Okay, there's the last fret. Looks like we're seated in there really well. Okay, so let's give this some time to dry. I'm going to have lunch. And then I'm probably going to start an SG that has to have a fret dress and a setup. Give this a few hours to dry well, trim these frets up, get them leveled up, and get moving on with this.